The Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts right now.
And welcome to this special edition of The Factor Uncensored. 5 years later, and the memories of Hurricane Harvey are hard for Houston to forget. Thursday marks 5 years since the hurricane made landfall. At one point, there seemed to be no end to the rain. Once it did, it left behind flooded homes, damaged businesses, and broken spirits. Tonight, we're talking about all the loss and destruction Hurricane Harvey has caused. It is the second most costly hurricane in history, coming in at $125 billion in damages with 68 deaths. Some people still affected to this very day. We even have a story of hope as well tonight. First, we begin with Houston City leader, Mayor Sylvester Turner. He remembers how Hurricane Harvey took over Houston. Mayor, take us back to August 2017. When did you realize just how bad Harvey was?
You know, in August 25th of 2017, quite frankly, on that Friday night when it landed on the Texas coast, I thought we had bypassed any serious damage. And then that Saturday, it just rained all day Saturday. And I was over at the Houston Emergency Center. I stayed there all day. And then as the day progressed on Saturday, going into Saturday evening, we said, look, this is going to be a major rain event. And then County Judge Ed Emmett and I were in constant communication and kept saying it's going to be a lot of rain. And then on Sunday morning is really when it dawned on all of us, certainly on myself, that and not only was this going to be a major rain event, it was going to be here for a moment. And then I'll never forget at the emergency center at about 5 p.m. on that Sunday, the National Weather Service person said there are 3 bands that are coming into the Houston area, and each one can carry about 8 to 9 inches of rain. That's when it really dawned on me. And then we scheduled a press conference at TransStar. Myself and Judge Ed Emmett at the time, we left the Houston Emergency Center to go to TransStar. There was a lot of rain. But the closer we got to TransStar, even my vehicle could not make it. And so we got out of my vehicle and we walked through the rain to TransStar. On the way back, we couldn't make it in the vehicle back to the Houston Emergency Center. So we pulled up into a parking lot went as high as we could. And that's when they sent an Army truck to come and pick up me and my detail up to take us back to the Houston Emergency Center. And let me just tell you, being out there in it and seeing like nothing but water everywhere, and then being in that big Army truck, I was sitting in the front with the driver. My mayor's detail was sitting in the back, and then we hit a manhole that the cover was off, and that truck jumped up. I mean, head hit the top. I could hear the mayor's detail. They were yelling in the back. I will never forget that evening.
And when you had a chance to see the scope and just how much damage was done to the city of Houston, what went through your head?
I said this storm had no respect of persons or communities. Didn't matter whether you were rich or poor. Didn't matter whether you were black, white, or brown. Didn't matter whether you lived in West Houston or in Northeast Houston. Harvey had no respect of persons. 52 inches of rain fell on this city more than any other city in the North American continent, and it did not discriminate. Okay? Didn't care whether you were a Democrat or Republican. If you lived in this city, if you were in Kingwood, if you were in Acres Home, Sunnyside, you got the rain.
When you had the opportunity to meet with the people, get out there and survey the damage, and look into those faces of those individuals who look to you for leadership, Was that a heavy burden to carry?
Yeah, it's a heavy burden because they are needing help in almost every way. When we opened up the George R. Brown, we hosted more than 10,000 of our neighbors at the George R. Brown with more than 700 of their pets, and really was the first time in the country where it wasn't animals on one side and the people on another. We pretty much kept them together, but that was overwhelming because you had people from middle-income families that came through the George R. Brown. They just needed that moment to get out of harm's way, so to speak, and a place to be. But then when you went out and about in the community, people's homes were devastated. I mean, for many people in the city, they lost everything. Single-family homes impacted all over the city. Apartment units impacted, all over the city. And so you simply wanted to provide assurance to people that we're going to get through this. We're here for you, and together we're going to get through it. So for the moment, yes, your house may be flooded and destroyed, but let's put you in a more comfortable setting for the moment, and then we'll work together on getting you, standing you back up in a sense, tomorrow, next week, next month.
Now, Houston is still bouncing back from Hurricane Harvey. I know a lot of you are wondering, why was the money so slow in coming in? We chatted with the mayor about that. Stay with us when he has the answers. And welcome back to this very special edition of The Factor Uncensored. The road to rebuilding Houston after Hurricane Harvey is a long one. 5 years later, the city is still making an effort to rebuild. We talked to Mayor Sylvester Turner about the slow progress in most cases. The process of rebuilding is still going on today. Is that ever any frustration, especially when entities like the General Land Office say we're not doing enough here in Houston and spending enough money to help those recover?
It's always a rebuilding process, and it requires the partnership or collaboration with multiple entities. So it's not just the city or just the county. It's the city, county, with your state partner, with your federal partners, nonprofits, and others. It's a very collaborative process. And quite frankly, people who find themselves homes flooded, lost a lot, homes need to be reconstructed, repaired. Same thing with businesses. They look to all of us as partners to kind of work together to do what we can. Now, bear in mind, this city in the last 7 years has faced 7 federally declared disasters. So Harvey wasn't, in a sense, like the new storm.
Tax day floods, Memorial Day floods, ice storm.
Yes, so we've been at it. But nonetheless, you find ways to kind of work through it as best you can and continue to utilize your own resources and others in order to stand people up.
And we're still waiting on federal dollars here in Houston to address many of the problems that we have and continue projects of mitigation in the city, right?
Well, the reality is that the federal dollars have already come in 2 tranches. You had $4 billion, for example, that came for home repair and reconstruction. Again, that went through GLO. Okay, it's supposed to be $1 billion going to the Harris County, be 1.1 billion. And then 1.1 billion coming from the city. And then GLO, in its infinite wisdom, decided to pull a lot of those dollars back, or made it very difficult to get homes repaired and reconstruction. That was that tranche. And then the feds sent, through HUD, another $4.3 billion for infrastructure mitigation. Again, that was sent to the GLO. And in that second tranche, in order to, for example, in Cashmere Gardens, for infrastructure projects, to prevent future flooding, those dollars was intended for that. GLO gave the city of Houston of that amount, 0.
How do you explain that to the people? For those who are out there frustrated, looking for help still?
Well, the reality is, Isaiah, if you are the person whose home was in a state of disrepair or need to be reconstructed, okay, if you're the homeowner or living in that home, you don't give a darn who's supposed to be doing what.
Right.
Okay.
You just want it done.
You want it done. And so for people, for example, in these communities, in these neighborhoods, they see us all the same. City, county, state, feds. We're all lumped in. So when you start trying to explain, you know, the state didn't give us $0, or the state did put through these checkpoints, understandably, they don't really want to hear that. Okay? What they want their needs met. They want their lives restored. They want to be put in a position where they can withstand the next storm.
Straight ahead, another update from Mayor Turner about city's improvements since Hurricane Harvey. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Preparations for Houston's next extreme weather event are still in progress. Mayor Turner tells me there's a few things that need to be checked off on the city's to-do list. There has been some progress. He shared those updates and how racism, that's right, racism and politics have hampered the recovery process.
Are you surprised that you would have to even deal with a form of racism, a form of politics when it comes to dealing with people putting their lives back together after such a devastating storm?
If you had asked me that question 10 years ago, I would have said to you, yes. But 10 years later, as a society, we're in a different place. The politics is so toxic. The divide is so entrenched right now. So I'm not surprised. The politics trump the needs of the people who needed it most. Okay? And the politics in this particular case said, send the dollars to those cities and communities that could benefit those who are giving it out, and not necessarily to those whose needs were impacted from Hurricane Harvey. Now, not surprised. Am I disappointed? Yes. Okay. Do I still, as I tell my team, I understand the politics, okay, but we do have to find ways to work through it, to meet the needs of the persons who are in these communities who need the help. Because even if I go out and try to explain to people the politics, people are looking at their situation. They're looking at their homes. They're looking at a storm that came through in 2017, and we're in 2022, okay? And they see the clouds moving in, and there could be another storm coming. So for them, you know, Mayor, help me to get a firm footing, you know, and then we can talk about this other stuff later. So I understand the frustration, and you know, I get frustrated, but the politics is such that you simply, as I tell my team, we just have to find a way to work through it. So even though I know the politics, I can still talk with people at GLO and tell them, hey, look, I love you. I love you, and I've been in this business for a while, okay? And you can either say this is the politics and stay where you are, or you can recognize the toxic state of the politics and try to come up with a way to work around it. And so, you know, I'll still talk to you. And I will say to you, I love you, you know, and let's see how we can work through it. And hell, I know you don't care for the city, but damn it, I'm sure you have family members who live here. I'm sure you have people, friends who live here, okay? So, you know, you find ways to deal with it. But it is frustrating, and it takes up way too much time.
And to wrap up, 7 years later, how are we now better and better prepared in Houston when it comes to future storms? Obviously, that's something you can't predict, but what do you feel comfortable with that we have improved here in this city?
And I can without hesitation tell you that we are in a much better position today than we were at the time of Harvey. We have put forth our Resilient Houston plan that was put forth in February of 2020. We've expended over $1 billion in local revenues for capital projects right here in the city of Houston to mitigate flooding. That's through those Rebuild Houston dollars, drainage dollars that people are paying on their water bills. So over $1 billion since Harvey has been spent on local projects. We have built hundreds of houses higher, for example, in the Maryland area. Project Braze, building up those bridges, for example, about 31 of them that would help the water to flow. That project is pretty much complete. Move forward on that front. We now have more green storm water projects in the city of Houston, more parks and green space that will help to absorb that water. So that's forward. And then there are 4 hazard mitigation grant projects that have been preliminarily approved by FEMA. So there are a number of things that are taking place. So much so that other mayors, climate mayors, for example, chose me to be the chair of the U.S. Climate Mayors. I'm still the chair. And for the Global Resilient Cities Network across the globe, I serve as board chair of the Global Resilient Cities and have been the chair now for the last 2.5 years. And not because of me personally, but because of what people are seeing that's taking place in the city of Houston. I mean, who would have thought that the mayor of the energy capital of the world would be the chair of the United States Climate Mayors? And I think they see the emphasis on energy transition that's taking place right here in the city of Houston, all intended in the long run to mitigate flooding.